Ever since its Kickstarter back in 2019, I've been very excited for Street Uni X, the Street Unicycle PS1 inspired game. It just came out a couple weeks ago. Is it any good? So I don't know if you know this, but there's a community of unicycle riders out there who do tricks. They got all kinds of different flips and spins they can do. They can grind on handrails even. And now they have their own Tony Hawk's Pro Skater inspired game, which I'm very excited for them for, but I'm also excited that I get to play it. The first thing you'll notice about the game is a very faithful PS1 aesthetic. It even has intro scenes that simulate the PS1 startup screens, and there are graphic options to make the game look exactly like a PS1 game with the resolution and the texture warping to match. I picked the mode that looks like it's playing upscaled in an emulator, but I really like that I had the option at least. When you load into the levels, you see your phone, which is reminiscent of the Thug series, and you get cameras for each of the challenges like you do in Pro Skater 3. It's got a level of polish that I really liked, and this is perfect for the game because it doesn't just look like THPS 1 or 2, it plays like it too. There are flip tricks, grabs, manuals, and special tricks, sort of, we'll get to that. There are letters to collect, valves to unjam, a school to explore, even secret areas. I don't know what I haven't found yet, but here's an example. You're supposed to carefully ride off the roof to collect this Wi-Fi password, which is the game's stand-in for a secret tape. But if you air off of the window instead, you'll fly out into the parking lot where you see the game's developer, Daffodil, surrounded by code with warnings that you're not supposed to be here. It's meta, and I love it. The style, the look, and the feel overall is perfect. The controls are a bit tough to get used to though, as someone who still plays the original Tony Hawk games all the time. It's similar, but different enough to mess with you for a while as you get used to it. But it does make sense because we are talking about a completely different sport here. First of all, grinds are mapped to L1 and R1, which represent the different pegs. It doesn't seem like it's all that important for someone who's mostly going to be inputting random tricks and inputs and not really caring which is which, but it does matter. You can't grind the wrong side of a box, only on a rail. Think of a nose blunt as a nose slide on the wrong side of the ledge, and you'll get what I mean. You can't have the peg grinding while the wheel rolls, so there is some calculation that you have to do to make sure you're going to grind the right side, or you can just stick to rails, which is mostly what I did. Another quirk is that the controls are relative, so when you're riding fakie, R1 is your character's right, which is left on the screen. At the beginning of the game, I lost a lot of combos going into fakie grinds and not connecting. Flips and grabs work the way you'd expect with only a direction and a button, but they were also a little hit and miss. There were a lot of times I was going for high score, and my combo is full of straight jumps with no trick because it just didn't register. This happened less the more I played, so I think it's just a different timing that you have to get used to. Manuals, or coasts as they're called in this game, are done with triangle instead of up and down. This was the hardest thing to get used to, but it also makes sense. There are a lot of different coasts to do in different positions, so they had to have an input direction and a button. The part that doesn't make as much sense to me is that you can only spin using L2 and R2. If you're planning on doing all kinds of tricks in your combo, you'll need a finger on each shoulder button at the same time, which is a little awkward to me. I wish you could toggle it to allow you to spin while you hold a direction button. There were a lot of times I did a spin, I ended up sideways. I instinctively tried to tap the direction button to straighten out, but it doesn't work. There are also two more tricks that are different from skateboarding. First is the wall tap, which is where you bounce off the wall with your tire at an angle. It's the cross between a wall ride, which this game sadly doesn't have, and a wall plant where you push off and reverse directions. In this game, you tap the wall and it pushes you away at an angle. I used it sometimes, but mostly only when the challenges required it. The last trick is a foot plant, which I never did outside of the tutorial. You hold down an X and then you let go when your foot touches the obstacle. But there aren't any challenges that require this, and I probably wouldn't have known it was in the game if I didn't learn it in the VR Metal Gear Solid inspired tutorial. So the controls mostly make sense, but they are the biggest challenge of the game by far. Rewiring your brain to hit triangle for manuals and shoulder buttons for grinds is hard. But once you get the hang of it, what will you be doing? Let's look at the gameplay. The gameplay is what you'd expect. High scores, collecting the letters in trick, finding the hidden Wi-Fi icon, and one exclusive one. It could be busting down the drinking fountains in the school, moving the garbage truck downtown, or grinding the cargo on the airship. Collecting letters is a staple in these games, and it was fun to find them all. It felt fresh, like the first time I played the Pro Skater games, or more recently, when I played the PS1 version of Pro Skater 4, which was mostly new to me at the time. Of course, once you know where they are, you know, and the next playthrough will be a lot easier.
The levels are pretty small, even compared to the Tony Hawk levels. The Wi-Fi is usually pretty easy to find, the intro cameras give it away, and you just have to figure out the approach. The toughest one is downtown, where you have to move the garbage truck, then ride around the construction site, then throw yourself at the power lines to try to grind your way around. Usually in the Tony Hawk games, there's something to grind first that will line you up correctly for a gap, but in this game, you're often throwing yourself and hoping. This is one of the easier examples, but this ladder in the airship is very difficult. You have to hold up to get your speed going, then turn sharply and hope. If you miss, you might fall to your doom and waste a lot of your timer. So what I do is I go for that letter first, skipping the one that's right next to me at the start of the level. I wouldn't want the game to be too easy, but it does feel like there's an element of luck to it. Another example is this letter in the skate park on top of the light. There isn't a way to grind to it that I've been able to do, and there's no vert in the game, so airing up to it isn't an option either. What I had to do is get my way over onto the vent, then line myself up and blindly yeet myself and hope that I connect. And it doesn't always work. The level exclusive challenges are usually my favorite. They're never cryptic or hard to understand, and they shake things up. There are 5 levels, and then you're out. Unfortunately, there aren't any pro videos to unlock. You get to see a taste of what street unicycling is like in the intro, but I don't know who these pros are. Would have been cool to unlock a little clip of each of them. But what do you unlock? As you beat levels, you'll get text from Daffodil, who will let you know how to do a new trick. They're essentially special tricks, but you don't need your meter to be full to do them. In fact, the meter just seems to give you a stat boost when it's full. I didn't like it very much because it messes up your normal timing, although leaving a trail of fire in your wake is pretty cool. But it's nice having the trick system get more complicated as you play through, unlocking more advanced button combinations like left-right grind for a frame slide. It keeps the game feeling fresh on multiple playthroughs. You will also unlock new characters. The first I got is Daffodil, the developer, who gave himself the lowest stats in the game, which is pretty funny. You will also unlock a couple anime-inspired characters too, and some more that I haven't gotten to. And you may have noticed that I never mentioned collecting stat points. At first, it felt like it was something missing from the game, but as I started my second, third, and fourth playthrough, I really appreciated it. Every playthrough will feel a bit different because you're stuck with their starting stats the whole time. My first playthrough took about an hour and a half. After that, with a good grasp of the controls and knowledge on where the collectibles were, I got it down to about 20 minutes for future playthroughs. There's definitely more to unlock, and I'm going to have fun finding out what after my review.
Street Uni X costs $20 on Steam, but is it worth it? To me, I think so, but there is a demo that you can play to give it a try for yourself to see if it works for you. Keep in mind that the controls do take a while to get used to, so if you don't get the hang of it in your first 2-minute run, hang in there for a bit. But to me, I really hope this game does well because I want it to inspire a new generation of PS1 style games. I want more skateboarding, I want BMX, I want scooters, I want wakeboarding. Could probably do without the scooters, but I really hope that happens. I have 2 main critiques with the game. The first is that I wish the controls were customizable to an extent, at least being able to spin with the D-pad. Also, you have to hold up to move as opposed to the Tony Hawk games where you just have to not be holding down. It would be cool to be able to toggle that type of thing. Also, the goals can get a little bit repetitive. If you're talking about collecting trick and doing high scores, that's about half of the game. If they had 1 high score and replaced the other 2, maybe with collecting combo, maybe with another exclusive challenge per every stage, I think that would be better. But hey, maybe in the sequel.